I believe government officials, when they overstep their line, I think it's my job to call them on it, and make no mistake about it, I'll continue to do just that. Because long before the mainstream media paid any attention to Cliven Bundy and his ranch, we on this program were focusing on similar issues. Issues like eminent domain for many, many years.
Okay, first of all, there is nothing similar between the case of Cliven Bundy and a case involving eminent domain. Eminent domain is where the government takes private land for what it sees as a public purpose. Cliven Bundy has been illegally grazing his cattle on public land for over 20 years. The government did not take anything away from Mr. Bundy. But in the case of the Keystone XL pipeline, its builder, TransCanada, is using the power of eminent domain to take hundreds of miles of private land from private owners. And while many conservatives were quick to defend Mr. Bundy's right to freeload on the American taxpayers by refusing to pay his grazing fees, their silence in standing up for the ranchers who literally face having their land taken away with the construction of the Keystone pipeline has been deafening. Instead, we've heard conservatives consistently pushing the pipeline and criticizing the Obama administration for even considering the eminent domain issues. I'm talking about the rights of private landowners like Randy Thompson in Nebraska or Julia Trigg Crawford in Texas. I think the conservatives would be falling over themselves to defend them from the big bad government. So the question is, why the double standard? And my panel is back with me, and I'm going to start with Kate Sheppard, who wrote about this week. Where is the outrage?
Well, I think they would be outraged if this was a green energy project, if they were going to seize people's land and put up windmills. Oh, my gosh, I think that you would have the Cliven Bundy supporters would be out there in force. But because this is an oil pipeline, they are much more sympathetic to it being built and have really ignored the issue of the private property that are being taken away here.
You know, I want to play some sound from a woman named Julia Trigg Crawford, because I feel like let's let her speak for herself in terms of what this means. I mean, TransCanada keeps trying to say they've made certain offers to people, but let's listen to her.
They made an offer, they upped the offer, then they said, and if you don't sign this, we're going to take it anyway, and you're going to get a lot less. So that's where our family decided to make a stand. And I think what people may not realize is, even though we're now fighting in court to say they didn't have the right to take our land, they've built a pipeline anyway.
All right, I want to read a statement from TransCanada just to be fair. They say, quote, "We recognize that while there may be some vocal opponents to the Keystone XL, they do not represent the majority of landowners all along the approved route. The eminent domain process is one that we do not like to use, but sometimes have to when we cannot reach an agreement about compensation." You know, Aisha, again, what frustrates me about this is that people like Julia Trigg Crawford have no rights, literally. And if something should happen with this pipeline on her land, she has no rights. She has no rights to even know what chemicals are coursing through that pipeline.
And that's why the majority of Nebraskans are actually against this. So, I mean, that's something that wasn't said here. But people in Nebraska actually don't want the pipeline. And you would imagine a state like Nebraska would be empathetic or sympathetic to, like, drilling for oil. But there's so many safety and issues in terms of pollution that people are just getting, uproared about. So what happens then if that pipeline leaks, as they all do? We know that they all do, and then it completely pollutes the local water source there.
Right.
Who's going to go and clean that up? Who's responsible for that?
Right. And well, and again, if it tends to leak on your land, then you also have no rights. Sophia, it's interesting because Keystone it's a bipartisan issue, though. You have a number of Democratic senators calling for this. Senator Landrieu, right? Some suggesting that it's jobs. Senator Landrieu calling for a vote next week. But what's sort of interesting about it is, so I guess saying is, okay, we want to go around the president and say, yes, you can build this pipeline. We'll just stop in Nebraska till the Nebraska case is worked out, and then we'll keep going. I mean, that seems to me a little bit of election year politics.
Of course it is, Karen. I mean, come on. We had
okay, well, it's obvious.
I'm just saying it is. But let's get back to the issue. I agree with you 100%. It is not an eminent domain issue because the Bundy, rather.
You're a lawyer, you know.
Yeah, I am. I was sitting there going, wow, this is not right. But let me say this, that I think, again, I'm going to try to be altruistic here and say that it's a policy question again. We have to have issues of public-private, and what the public can't do, can the private do, and is there a different standard? And there really has to be a uniform standard when it comes to people's property rights in their land. And I do agree that it's a little bit bizarre that those who would normally be defending the rights of people like Ms. Trigg, is that her name?
Julia Trigg Crawford.
Trigg Crawford. That they're voiceless and that basically they're being told you either take this offer or lose your land.
Right.
And there has to be an in-between somewhere. I think on every issue we've talked about on this wonderful panel today, as much as I may disagree, I think that we've all been reasonable in saying we at least need to talk about it and come to a policy, some type of something with it. And I think that's where we ought to be.
Okay. I hope we can all agree that Cliven Bundy is a moocher. Yeah. At least I'm going to say that. All right. Our panel will be back. Still ahead, Beyonce versus Billow.